Welcome everyone to the You Can't Handle the Truth Sports podcast. I'm Rubbish, and with me as always, well, generally you're with me unless I'm drunk Saturday night with my other mate. He's the Pistol. How you doing, mate? You going all right?
Yeah, going all right, mate.
So I'm still hungover from Saturday, like I was mentioning to you before.
Yeah.
It was a good night. We had fun. It was cathartic. But yeah, I think it's fair to say that the quality just wasn't the same without you. I think I mentioned in one of my rants about you're the glue that keeps this ship together. And it's true. It's absolutely true. It's always a sign of a good night after you've had 15 beers that you wake up the next day and realise, actually, we also knocked off 4 bottles of red. Yeah, that's pretty much telling you.
Yeah, it looked a good, decent effort.
Anyway, enough of that. I guess, it's been a couple of weeks, so we've got plenty to talk about. First up, I know you wanted to have a bit of a chat about the news of Sam Landsberger. The other day, you'd had some connection with him, and his obvious passing, which was tragic.
Yeah, so just like continuing on with, I guess, everyone else that has had some thoughts in regards to Sam, and like, I'm not going to say I'm mates with him or anything, but had a couple of interactions with him on the X or Twitter platform, and he's always been easy to talk to. He had a chat there once, quick 5-minute phone call about footy related stuff, and yeah, he's just had all the time in the world, and probably one of the good guys of the media industry, to be honest. And I think that's what we're seeing. Even the players. I know Glenn Maxwell commented from a cricket point of view. He did both footy and cricket and was well versed in both. So
yeah, it's pretty sad, isn't it? Very young guy. Just as a traffic accident, as I understand it. It's pretty. I mean, we've had a little bit of experience, unfortunately, in the footy world about young, broadcasters or whatnot leaving a little bit soon. Sam's, one example. Then there's Clinton Bribus from years ago.
I was just trying to think of his name. Yeah.
He was a bloody awesome commentator, and he was the original AFL 360 guy. And he had a condition which left him predisposed to sleepwalking, of all things, and fell down some steps when he was asleep. That's crazy.
Unreal.
Yeah. Anyway, So rest in peace, Sam. Moving on with the pod itself. First thing here, I reckon we probably need to address is the GWS game. I said quite a bit on Saturday night, but a lot of it was through slurred words, as I said. So hopefully now I can articulate it a little bit better. But I think from an effort perspective, you couldn't really fault where we were at. We were up for most of the game.
Yeah.
I just, as always say, they just don't stand up in the big moments. They let little things through. It's like it's like every game when it comes to that matters. It honestly feels like we're 2% off. We're not far. We're never far. But we're always just 2% not good enough, and that's an arbitrary figure, right? But it's just disappointing.
Yeah, I think the thing for me, for the most part, was our pressure was a bit hit and miss. It was up and then it was down, and that was sort of the majority of the day. We had a spell there where we were really intense, and I think they showed the pressure rating up around the 220 mark, but then it was dropping off the map. sort of as soon as we got any ascendancy. And maybe that was just due to the Giants and how they were playing. But yeah, like even the tackles, I'm looking at it now, 77 to 56. I mean, that's on our average, but so I guess that goes to the point of how the Giants' pressure was back on the weekend and causing the turnovers we had, which was 63, which is again our average.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they only had the 55, which is 12 below theirs. So just that pressure and the ability to turn the ball over.
And then make the most of our opportunities.
Yeah. Yep.
We just, unfortunately, like my guy Jai, he missed a couple of sitters which you expect him to kick, right? And he's generally very, very good at that. And I know this year he has had on some occasions, some battles with accuracy, but generally speaking, his accuracy hasn't been terrible. It's been made a lot worse than what it actually is. But on that game, his 1-goal-2 should have been 3 goals, and that was enough, right? 9
Yep.
But he wasn't the only one, you know.
No. You can break it down into a million different things. And I think JL said it, if it wasn't last week, it was the week before. There's that many different acts throughout the game. There was the 50 metres from Banfield. There was the missed goals from, say, a miss, or there's missed kicks going inside 50 that should have hit a target to a guy wide open, or a drop mark, or whatever it is. There's probably 100 of them a game. So when you're talking about, she was a final margin, almost erased it, 9 points.
9 points, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of goals there in it, and I mean, a couple of things change, but I mean, stat wise, they also had us. They had more possession.
I think you can skew stats either way. Like we
Yeah.
talk about it here and say, ultimately, yeah, if we had have won, we would have pointed probably to the opposite stat, saying, "Look where we won here." You know, like
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
No, I know you know that, but I just ultimately, I think it comes down to a clutch gene that some players just do or don't have. You know, you talk about legendary footballers like you knew that Dustin Martin was always going to stand up in big games. You just know because he proved it time and time and time again. And he's a one out of the box, right? I get it. Not everyone can be that way, but it feels like we carry a few players that
too many of the opposite.
Yeah, it's like they shrivel up. You know, I'm not going to point because I think Banfield's had some good moments, you know, at key times. I remember that game against Brisbane last year. He kicked 4 goals in a game. You know, it was or was it the year before maybe? And you know, it was a really really good game, clutch moment. He kicked a clutch goal, and then this week he gives away the stupidest 50-meter penalty that I think I've just about ever seen, and he gave up the game. Because our midfield was winning the clearance. It's like the Essendon game. Our midfield, you know, we were up all day. We'd been winning the clearances all day, and then all of a sudden we do something stupid, don't match up in the right spot, and then we give up an easy possession, and in this case, an easy goal, and that costs you.
Yep.
You just cannot win consistently with that kind of stuff going on, and the good teams don't let it happen, or at least if it does, it doesn't happen often enough for them to lose, or it doesn't. You know that they don't do it at key moments. They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just So that's I guess there's some players who I don't think are very clutch, right? So I think I generally wouldn't rely on Banfield in it. Let's say if it's a final, high pressure final, Banfield's not going to be the one dragging us across the line.
Yeah.
So, I think he's gone missing. I think Switkowski seemingly does the same thing. You don't really see him unless things are going really, really well. And then we call him elite. But if you don't perform when your team actually needs you, like against GWS, like against Geelong. Are you elite? I'd say no. You're elite at you're elite when it suits your style, your conditioning.
Yeah.
I think that I really, really like Brendan Cox. He had a howler, an absolute howler on the weekend. We needed him to stand up, and he got destroyed by Jesse Hogan, who, by the way, is a superstar. We know that. But
Yep.
we gave him 10 shots at goal, and then
So,
there was, yeah.
at what point does the coaching staff come in and say, righto, Brendan, you've had your shot?
Well, the first
Luke,
game,
have a crack.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. The first goal was kicked by Hogan. They had Josh Draper on Hogan. And you sent me a message.
Yeah.
What the hell is Draper doing on Hogan? And I'm like, yeah, I know, but
Did
then
you see the vision that they highlighted on? I can't even remember who highlighted it. Now it was on X. They were doing handoffs inside the 50. So Cox was handing off to the nearest player.
yeah,
He was getting no body contact on old mate whatsoever, and was just handing off to whoever was nearby.
yeah, it's just not good enough. It's just
No.
not good. And we, I've mentioned this before, but I didn't really know. I knew Alex Pearce was a fantastic player. He's always been a superstar player from our perspective, albeit a little bit injury prone. I questioned whether he was the right captain for us. And I think that this is one of the things where I can now look back on it and go, well, rubbish, you're talking rubbish, because he wouldn't have let that happen.
No.
Hogan would not have kicked 6 goals if Alex Pearce was playing, and Brendan Cox wouldn't have been allowed to be doing this pointing and handing off and guard. He would have been accountable for whoever he was playing, Cadman, and Draper would have been able to take the third tall.
Yeah.
Okay, Luke Ryan could have, but you're right in as such that my initial analysis of this game was that I would have rathered Luke Ryan to play on Jesse Hogan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Cox is quite he's good enough to play that Luke Ryan role. So
yeah, and I just feel like that Luke Ryan, I've got just a little bit more faith in to stick to a role when absolutely required, because when it was 2 years ago, it was he and Alex Pearce, pretty much were our only defenders because Brendan Cox was injured, and Luke Ryan was required to play tall, and he'd done it well.
yeah.
So yeah, disappointing. Cox was disappointing.
It was Ryzak even said in the TikTok you did the other day about he's had kicked 4 goals for the last month every game. So
Yeah.
it's not like it was something new coming to us. We knew what was going to happen.
And he was always going to be fired up to play against us too.
Yeah.
So there was a lot going into that. I think that Caleb Sarong and Hayden Young are always going to stand up. That's the way it is. I don't want to. I cop enough grief about my views on Brayshaw, right? All I'll say is that he doesn't impact games. I don't think as much as what he probably could.
Yeah.
He runs hard and he does a lot of the defensive stuff, which is great. You need to do that, but I just don't feel like he's. If we're in a grand final, put it this way, he is not winning a Norm Smith medal. I know that. So we've got a few players, I think, but we're also young, so maybe we can develop it. Sharp, who I think has been a wonderful pickup. I think he played okay on the weekend. But there's plenty of games where he's had his 8 touches, and I know that he's said it himself that it's sometimes an unrewarding role, that sometimes you have to spend a whole bunch of time running up and back without getting the ball. I get that, but we need guys to impact in the big moments, and
Yeah.
I've still got questions on that.
I mean, he was another that had a couple of shots on goal, I think, and relatively easy under
Yeah,
no real pressure.
yeah, yeah. So that's, I suppose, and I've named a few players there. Probably singled out a couple, maybe we could go a little bit harder at a few of them because I think there was some analysis about Fife and O'Meara and how they're not doing enough, and I agree. I agree with
Yeah,
that. I agree with
yeah,
that.
yeah,
They're two more. So I think ultimately, when you look at it as a team, I think we've got too many players. They say that you can't have everybody a superstar. Ryzak said this to me while we were watching the game. He goes, "You know what your problem is? You want everyone to be a superstar." And I'm like, no. I get that. We need role players that actually stand up. Like, it's no good having a role player if they don't play their role when it matters.
yeah,
I get that we can't have, 8 sarongs. But you need to have, if you're not going to have 8 sarongs, that's fine. You can't. You can have 2 sarongs, but you need 6 players who you can count on when it matters. Frederick, I
yeah.
think Freddie had a good game on the weekend. What did he kick, 3 or 4? From memory.
Yeah, there was a bit of question mark around his forward pressure, I guess, but I don't think he was alone in
No,
that department across the entire field. So
yeah. Look, as far as I'm concerned, he did his part. But
yeah,
there have been games. I think against Geelong, he was barely cited. Like,
yeah,
so, you know, the consistency of a young team ebbs and flows.
mm,
Um, but you can't. We as a supporter base can't have it both ways. We can't say that we think we're a top 4 team and then give them excuses for not standing up in the big moments.
yeah,
And I think that's what we do. I think as a supporter base, we're shocking for it. Some people like me will probably go too hard and say, we're not good enough, and we're blah blah blah. We're just simply not good enough. X X X X. Whatever. But then we've got a bunch of other people who are like, well, they're young and they don't stand up, and then they're also cooing that, oh, we're a top 14. We're a top 4 team and blah 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 blah. It's not. It's just not the reality, And we'll talk a little bit more about list management a little bit later on. But I'll say this: if anyone's listening to this, anybody who thinks that we are one Shy Bolton away from a flag, need to go and get their head checked, because we are not one flaky, albeit very talented, half forward flank midfielder away from being a contender.
yeah.
What do you reckon?
Agreed. Like I want him at the club, but I understand that by him being there, it's not gonna slingshot us into premiership favourites like certain ex Dockers are starting to say.
So, somebody picked me up on that. You're talking about Lee Spur, and I haven't heard the direct comment, and I didn't read the direct article, but I've been told that his exact comment was, if you have Bolton and Warner, then you become premiership. So he actually included Warner in on that, apparently. I didn't hear.
Well,
If he's saying Warner and Bolton, well then premiership favourites is, I don't know, but I tell you what, if we get Warner and Bolton,
it
then
moves into the top 4 from.
yeah, then you look at the list and go, yeah, okay, well this is a top 4 list. But Bolton alone, I've never. I mean, I know he's a very good player, but who's to say that he would have played on the weekend instead of Frederick and kicked 2 goals instead of 4? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think people are. I think people are maybe just a little bit high on Shea Bolton. No, yeah, I certainly don't want to be giving up a king's ransom for him, like Richmond will ask.
Yeah,
So we'll get into that a little bit later anyway. But the other one I want to touch on is, do you know where I'm going with this?
Big tall bastard.
Yeah. Yeah. So, another thing. I know, I'm starting to lean towards the Dockers need to consider and maybe push Sean Darcy to move. I am starting to see that sense, right? Because the fact is, we can't get him on the park, and
Yeah.
But the problem I do have then is that I'm battling with the people who are saying, well, Liam Reedy can come in, because I don't really remember a worse debut. I think he was horrid. I think he was uncompetitive. Not saying he won't be a good player one day. He might be. But he had 6 touches, 4 of which were handballs. Okay, little dinky handballs. 2 kicks. They were all 100% effectiveness. Okay. He got 31 hit-outs. Only 6 of them were to advantage. So he had 20. He basically helped GWS for 25 of his hit-outs. He was uncompetitive. Now I know Briggs is a good big ruckman, right? So you don't want to sell him short. But Liam Reedy's 24. This isn't. We didn't throw Max Noble out there. I'd expect that from Max Noble.
What I'll say about Reedy, I guess, with you saying he's 24, he hasn't been playing footy long. He was a basketballer. So he's coming from Category B signing. He's coming from a fair way back learning the game. So, yeah, he's 24 and mature age, but it's not like he's played all his junior career and, I guess, learnt the craft and X, Y, Z.
Maybe. I mean, he was a rookie. He was a rookie list player. We picked
Yeah.
Okay, maybe there's some leeway there to a degree, but I still do not see the answer there. I just don't. Maybe.
When we start talking about Darcy being moved on, I tend to agree because Reedy would need to be available to be playing day in, day out, whereas Reedy I see more of a, like last week, if Darcy didn't get up or your second ruckman didn't get up, he comes in and just is able to provide a contest as such, although how much of a contest everyone thought that was. I thought he competed okay, but at the moment, I don't think we should be sending Darcy anywhere at the moment.
Yeah.
Only because it disrupts our forward line way too much.
Yeah, and I think the thing is like, Kane Corns is so adamant that Jackson is a ruckman. I am just as adamant he isn't. He's a fantastic player that you can throw around the ground. As a midfielder, as a forward, he can pinch hit in the ruck. You don't want Jackson rucking 70% of the game or 80% of the game.
We got better once Darcy came back into the side.
Yeah. So my point is that Jackson, I think, you get him up forward, he can do his magic up forward, you throw him in the middle, give him a little bit of ruck. But you really do need a ruckman to support him.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I guess the other thing with it is, if we don't play another ruck, so in a perfect world, Tracy's fit, right? Jackson goes into the ruck. The backup ruck is JT, right? And he's just had a PCL.
Yeah.
Now, what's a common injury for a ruckman?
Yeah, PCL, yeah.
You don't want Tracy having to do that role.
No, he's just way too valuable up forward.
Yeah. So that's where if Reedy's not going to be good enough, and I don't think Noble's going to be good enough at the minute, I'm not even sure how old Noble is. I know he's out of contract, but and I know there's a cap on how many players you can play at Peel League level, which is why Deline and Noble have been playing resis. So, but the point is they have been playing resis. So, in the waffle, so it's a big step to say that Noble's AFL ready, like ready, ready. If we were to get rid of Darcy.
Yeah, I don't think Noble is AFL ready, but I also know that Noble is a project player who they do rate extremely highly as a talent. But he's going to be like your Dean Cox, who didn't really play well. I'm not expecting to say he's as good as Dean Cox, but Dean Cox, it took him 5 years, right? And, you know,
the guy couldn't even run a lap of the oval when he first started.
No, so and Noble is that kind of a project, and I'm more than happy for us to give him another couple of years.
Yep.
Let him develop, be in the gym, do what he's got to do, and get some games. I'm just so. Yeah.
So just on this, it sort of leads into the Port game. There's a report just before Darcy hasn't got through the main training sessions, sat out a lot of it. So potentially he's not coming up. So does Reedy play? I know it's going to be wet on the weekend.
I wouldn't play him.
I'm with you. I would leave him out. But that does mean one of the guys I don't like may get a game in Matty Taberner. Which I've got my issues with him coming in regardless. So yeah, I just think he disrupts the forward line.
Yeah, it's the choice of two evils, isn't it? Ultimately,
I don't know who else could back up Jackson in the ruck. I know Voss did at times the previous week. You wouldn't send a miss up there. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a far difficult one.
So he may get another gig this week.
Yeah. I don't. Ultimately, I wouldn't want to play Reedy or.
But I mean, having said that, he's only up against Jordan Sweet, so.
Yeah. I don't know, mate. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't know what the answer is, mate. This is it's Sophie's choice, really. It's
Yeah, if it's me, I think I'm leaving him in, which means that Taberner spends another week in the waffle.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Which gives you 2 games to have a look at him at an AFL level when he's out of contract.
Yeah. I just think that Reedy in the wet is not going to work. It's not going to work. Not going to work. He's just going to get. I know it's only Jordan Sweet. Jordan Sweet must. Again, based on what I saw on the weekend, Jordan Sweet would kick his ass, but maybe.
But do you bring the wet weather into account, or do you does the structure weigh more?
I think you have to bring the wet weather into account. It's going to be a thunderstorm on that.
So do you go Reedy out and Walters in?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to. You have to do something like that.
And then you just Voss will have to pinch it.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's the way to go. Yep. For what might be Walter's final game.
Yeah, well, he's hinted at that most of the year, and yeah, you don't. I know he's contracted for next year. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But him and Fife, but yeah, be interesting.
The Port game's a big one, obviously. Even if we win it, we're no guarantee to make the.
We're going to know before the game's ball's bounced how we're going. So
yeah, but that's assuming we even win. I wouldn't be tipping us to beat Port anyway, based on the way that we've gone, which will leave us in, 9th or 10th again.
Yep. So
Um,
2 picks inside the top 10.
yeah, another wasted year. And I think we're gonna.
4 out of the 5 years under Longmuir out of
Yeah,
the finals.
yeah, it's just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable.
Which I've said this to you before, but I think I might have mentioned on X once or twice as well. But if this was a US team,
I'd be gone.
he'd be gone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Like last year, they had an epic meltdown. I think they lost 8 of their last 9 games, and their coach who got them to the Super Bowl the year before, and who Nick Sirianni, who was it Nick Sirianni, or is he the one who coaches Green Bay? I always get those two mixed up.
No, I think it's Sirianni. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is Sirianni. So yeah, and they are baying for blood. You know, after losing 8 games, out of 9, which is fair enough. You shouldn't be happy. But the year before, they made effectively our grand final, the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They've been in the playoffs every year. They were even in the playoffs last year, and yes, they lost. But and
Look at the Milwaukee Bucks. They had a winning start to the season. Midway through, they sacked old mate and put Doc Rivers in.
yeah, who's a known choker as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty ruthless.
it is ruthless. Yeah, I just don't know. I feel like there's more to it than just coaching, but I think we've got a better list than what we're playing. And when we lose this week, and we miss the finals again, you just have to look back at it and go, okay, we had 8 or 9 games that were with very close losses throughout the year. This is what we're talking about earlier, the big moments. You got to step up, and they don't. They make mistakes. They fumble it away.
Yeah. I mean, some of those we had leads in as well. So I don't know. Do we have a look at what Collingwood do so well at that end of the game? They managed to just milk that clock down ever so slightly.
What they used to do, you mean?
Well, what they used to do. They were quite good at it, yeah.
Yeah, I think every team practices it though. I do think that there's an element of luck to that. Like Collingwood were amazing coming back and doing all that, and then this year they've given up leads. Last year, I felt pretty comfortable that if we were in it at 3/4 time, that we would, be a pretty good shot to win it, even though we were garbage. Or the year before that as well. Now this year, we've been virtually leading at 3/4 time most games, and we fumble it away. So, and we all know about the starts, right? Like even against GWS, we gave up the first 4 goals again. And I was like, how can the coaching staff keep letting that happen? And then you talk to JL, and he goes, "I'm trying not to make too big a deal of it." Okay, fine, but what? Are you making any deal of it? Because it's
at some point you got to
well, we lost by 9 points, and we gave them the first 4 goals of the game. So you do the math. Like, it's
You don't want to be giving teams starts like that in the finals. Like,
mate.
Just like if we get in, it's a big if we get in. You can't be giving side start like that in the finals. We can't be our foot off the pedal pressure wise starting the game. We'll get annihilated.
We let the Eagles kick the first 8 goals of the game,
something like
that, and we lose by what?
And they just walked it out of the
points. So we win from quarter time onwards, basically, and now we can miss the finals by a game.
Yeah,
it's just it baffles me. I know things aren't linear. I know that there's more to it than that, right? There is more to this than just a simple eye test, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, we've never started well under Longmuir. That's the thing I think that's frustrating me the most. Is it's been 5 years, they haven't addressed it at all. It feels like they haven't.
Yeah, I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. You're not making the finals most of those. So, yeah. No, it's a kick. It's a kick in the balls, is what it is this year. I think we all. Well, I tipped to be fair, I tipped the Dockers to win 7 games this year. So it's
So
12
they've
points.
exceeded your expectations already.
Yeah, and yet I'm more angry than what I possibly could imagine I would be. So
Yeah,
and it's because you can't be third with 4 weeks to go against goodish teams,
and drop out of the eight.
and still and have 2 home games and just piss it away and not win one and then miss. You just can't do that and be happy.
Yeah,
That's the problem. Yeah. Look, we're gonna keep going on about this. I think,
yeah,
and we'll absolutely, um, keep discussing this in the off season. It'll be interesting to see what we do from a personnel perspective. But
yeah,
um, I don't think that we're going to get, you and I certainly aren't going to get the happy answers that we are hoping for, because I just don't think that it seems like that they're addressing it. So, and if that's the
yeah.
case, and we have another year like we did this year, next year, well, Longyear will be gone. So
Yeah.
it won't matter.
So speaking of next year in the off season, bit of list management. So after Banfield and Voss signed on during the week, there's 12 players by my account out of contracts. So Conrad Williams, Hughes, Ethan Stanley, Corbett, Reedy. Reedy may have signed a 1 year. A couple of people have said that's your next, but I couldn't find anything online. Taberner, Noble, O'Driscoll, Odin Jones, Sturt, Hewitt, and Emmett. So obviously we're not going to be keeping all of those, and I think straight off the bat, I think probably Conrad Williams, Ethan Stanley, Taberner
I
will
think,
be in trouble.
yeah, I think Williams, Hughes, Stanley, Corbett, Taberner, O'Driscoll.
I think they're going to go with O'Driscoll again.
Yeah, well, I know he jumped on and did okay in the last quarter.
Yeah,
I think we've seen so much of him. I tell you what, he would be the prime candidate for delist and then re-rookie.
yeah.
I think. Odin Jones.
Sturt, you'd have. Sorry, yep.
Yeah. Sorry, you say what you're going to say.
No, Odin Jones.
Yeah, Odin Jones. I think will probably. I don't know that he's done anything this year to make a
I
case.
think he wasn't he a defender, and they've now tried him forward.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think he was a ruckman, wasn't he? A ruck forward.
yeah. I haven't seen much of him at all, to be honest.
And Sabat, I'd like to see him get another year, but again, it wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me if they.
I think there's something there if he was able to get his body right. Like I know he had that ACL, and he's come back quite good. From all reports, kicking multiple goals each week. So,
let's
Sturt, you have to offer a contract.
Yeah, Sturt's been good. But if I was Sturt, right? If I was Sturt, the fact, like, if they haven't got something on the table for him right now, I'd be asking his manager to look around.
Yeah, and honestly, Port or
Adelaide.
Adelaide would jump at it, I reckon.
He's actually Victorian, I found out. I thought he was South Australian.
I'm sure he's from South Australia.
Double check. Someone pulled me up on this, and I think we're getting confused because of his last name, which is in South Australia.
Oh, yeah. Why did I think he was from there?
Probably because of his last name.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, he's from Dandenong, so he played for the Dandenong Stingrays. So, yeah, look, I think teams would be interested in him, but ultimately, I would give him a 2-year deal. I think he's done enough. To get a multi-year deal.
Especially now that he's got his body right. He had a lot of issues early, but...
Yeah. So, look, the ones I definitely would keep... I'd keep Reedy. I wouldn't get rid of him. I just wasn't impressed with him on the weekend. Noble, I would absolutely keep. Sturt, I'd keep. Kuek, I'd keep. Emmett, I'd keep. So that's 5. And then O'Driscoll, I'd be happy to delist and then re-rookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll see. Because it really comes down... And also, like, list...
You have to draft 3.
Yeah, so you have to draft 3, and then let's take into consideration that... Let's say
Potentially
if we get
Muir
Bolton and Baker...
and Baker. So it's potentially 5 or 6.
So there you're going to have to get rid of at least 5 players.
Or potentially someone that's already has a contract might be out the door.
Well, yeah, I mean there's the rumor of Sam Swiskowski preparing to ask for a trade, which I've heard in the corridors around. Look, I've got to say it's not official channels, but there's somebody I know who is fairly close to Switter. And yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah.
Well, when I say fairly close, he's in the circles, and you know, is it official? No. Does it mean he's absolutely going to leave? No. Could he be messing with me? Yes. But sometimes when these things pop up at this time of year, it's a bit of like when there's smoke, there's fire kind of a situation.
Yeah, it was a little bit similar to the Lockie Schultz. A few people knew about that early on. It wasn't a shock to a lot of people. Well, when I say a lot, it wasn't a shock to certain people.
Yeah. So, look, I don't want Switkowski to go.
No.
Although, I labelled him as someone who probably hasn't stood up in the big moments yet.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Just my point, I guess, was that that's the uncontracted, but there may be some other movements we're not aware of that some players from interstate, whether it's South Australia, Victoria, that might be situations change, just like Bolton.
Yeah, exactly. If Shai Bolton can request a trade and he's got 5 years to go in his contract or whatever it is, then then who's to say we're not going to get a bunch of them again?
Yeah.
Like we've been good at it, haven't we? Let players wanting to leave.
Yep.
Just on that with list management. Actually, you know what? Do you mind if we just have a couple-minute break?
Yeah, go for it.
Right, we have a couple-minute break. I'm just going to put on a quick song, rest my voice just slightly. Okay. This song is called Asha Zu Asha. Welcome back to the You Can't Handle the Truth Sports podcast. Been discussing intensely the performance of the weekend and the upcoming game against Port, and really started to dive in, I suppose, into some of the list management decisions that we're probably going to have to make soon with some of our currently uncontracted players. But we all know that there's some players that are from Western Australia that are looking at potentially coming home. I think Richmond, it smacks a little bit of players jumping ship, unfortunately for them. With both Shai Bolton and Liam Baker looking to come home. And then you've got, obviously, Daniel Rioli, who isn't from Gold Coast, but certainly looks like he's going to be going to the Gold Coast. So they've got a retention issue at the moment. And then there's, of course, our man, Chad Warner, who hasn't asked for a trade. We're hoping at some point he will, whether that's this year or next year. Yet to see. So, yeah, have you got any insight on any of that, Pistol?
Only what was really we've been discussing, I guess, at length on X or Twitter or whatever we call it these days. Bolton, Baker, Warner, they're probably the three that are the ones that have been linked to us. Baker was more or less, for me, he wasn't as required as the other two, but I can see a need for it. Based on, I guess, the last few weeks. We're talking about previously about stepping up in the big moments. He's one that I think you can rely on. I think he's shown that in finals, grand finals, experienced player. He probably replaces a guy like, well, not necessarily replaces, but he's got the ability to play all over the ground. He can be that smallish defender in the back half. He's been known for Richmond to go forward and do a role in forward. He can go in the guts if needed to. So guys like Banfield or Swikowski, or even in the back line like your Walkers and Aish even.
I'm going to say James Aish wouldn't get a game again, I wouldn't have thought, although I'd probably still play him ahead of Banfield. But
yeah, you're probably looking at. I think there's warrant in getting him, but I wouldn't want. The general value for him has been talked about as a first rounder, and I don't know he's worth that.
So this is my thing. And I said it earlier. we are not one player away from being premiership contenders.
Yeah.
I think people think we are. I think people overrate our list, particularly the midfield. And I think that, I'm really annoyed. I get really annoyed with Cal Toomey, who I rate, right? I really listen to what he says, right? I think he's fantastic, but I'm so tired of hearing the Freo should just pay overs, and give up their first three, give up the first three picks and pay overs to get Bolton and Baker. Why should we? Why? Why should we give up overs? Like, I get that Bolton is in contract. So I understand we're going to have to give up something, right? And it needs to be bloody good. But it needs to be a fair deal. So it's not fair for us to be paying overs. And I don't think Bolton is going to be the guy that that is going to stand up for us and be the reason why we then go on a magical run to a premiership. I think he's very, very. We need his skill set. We need his ability, but he isn't the guy. I don't think anyway that is going to be that big difference maker. And as for Baker, he wants to play for West Coast, so now he might be changing his mind slightly because A, the Eagles won't walk out for him, and B, he may not want to be on a dog shit team for the next 4 years. But even still, if he needs to be convinced to come to us, well then I say, no, I'm out. You can go to West Coast or you can stay at Richmond because we're not giving up. And I wouldn't want to give up anything higher than that pick 26 for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree. I wouldn't want to be paying a first rounder for him. That pick 26 in the second round, I think would sit well, but I don't think that's going to get done from a Richmond point of view. I don't know where.
Well, he's out of contract.
Don't know where the value. Yeah, but I don't know where the valuations are coming from.
Well,
so realistically he could walk to the
Eagles.
Well, no. Do they have the number one pick?
No, they don't. But again, North Melbourne aren't going to be not. You know who they have the 2 picks ahead of them? Richmond, who is leaving, and North Melbourne, who they're not going to be stopping him from getting to West Coast.
Yeah.
When it comes to salary and all the rest of it.
I can't see him walking to the pre-season draft on Richmond. Just from what I've heard, he won't do that to them. But at the same point, I can't. It would be horrific list management from West Coast to give up a first rounder for Baker when they need to rebuild.
Yeah.
So you're allowing Barras to go to get picks in the door, and then you're going to basically say, okay, Barras for Baker.
Yeah.
Because they're effectively going to give pick 12 from Hawthorn, hand that over to Richmond for Baker. That's what will happen.
Yeah.
In that transaction.
Yeah, I just don't know, man. So by that, it sounds to me like you think that we're going to get Baker.
I think we're going to get him, but I think we probably need to prepare ourselves for what we're going to be paying.
Well, then it'll be.
I think that later pick, the 17, is probably going to come into it.
Well, then,
and we may get relief further back. Or we give a future first and bank on the fact that we climb the ladder.
Well, then, if that happens, don't mind me, by the way, I need to get some power. If that happens, well, then David Wolves is going to be. Then we get what we deserve. if we are going to be in a position where we are giving up first rounder for a guy who is a trier, but not a star, well then what are we doing?
Yeah,
What are we doing? Like,
I agree. I don't see his value as a first rounder, but I believe that's where it's going to get to.
Jesus Christ.
It's going to be a late first rounder that's going to get the job done, and Baker will be at Freo, which leaves us with, 9 and 10.
Well, what's a late first rounder? Because we don't have a late first
Or is that 7? That's 17 or whatever it is at the moment.
I don't think Port are going to win it. I reckon Port's pick will end up being something like 14.
Yeah, whatever that pick is what it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a fan. Not a fan of that at all.
And then you start talking about Bolton and every man and his dog saying 2 first rounders.
This is the other thing. Like, it just seems like. Here's an idea. Why don't we just use the picks? Yeah, they reckon this draft.
And then trust that your favourite man gets it right.
Well, surely you can get one of the 3 right. I mean,
yeah, you could. So you got 3 picks there. 3 picks go to Baker and Bolton, right? At least 2. So 2 plays, you sort of know what you're going to get. I don't know. I don't agree with it. I said on X that a future first and a future second for Bolton.
I don't want to be giving up futures because that's what we're going to have to give up for Warner.
Depends on whether he comes in this year and where we sit on future trading from an AFL point of view.
I'll tell you another strategy that I'd be probably okay with. Trading out of this year's draft. Keep 1 pick ourselves, then trade out of this year's draft for future first rounders for teams like who expect that they might go up next year and do what we've done with Collingwood and hope that they don't. So where's Essendon's first rounder sit? Like,
they're not going anywhere for a while.
No. So where's Essendon's second rounder sit? Where does you know what I mean? Like future first for Essendon to enable them to get hold of one of our firsts this year. Because
their second rounder is 28.
So do we get this year's second rounder and then next year's first to trade to get hold, so they can get hold of one of our firsts this year? And yes, it rules us out of Shai Bolton, but you know what? He signed a 5-year deal. This is his fault, And Baker, well, I don't think he's that great. Maybe you can parlay that pick 26 that we've got and pick 28 and give those to Richmond for Baker. I don't know. I'm trying to think of ways that I know it involves us not getting Bolton, but I'm trying to think of ways that we can most effectively use these, because if we're not going to actually use them, I don't want to be fleeced.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen that way, is it?
So the latest article that just Fremantle part with picks 10 and 17 for Shai Bolton. That's the latest article. Liam Baker traded for Freo's 2025 first round with later pick swaps to satisfy.
To satisfy who? Us.
whichever way, just says to
It's gotta be
satisfy.
us. It's gotta be us. Any first rounder, any first rounder for Liam Baker is not worth it. Where is it? Where is these?
So basically, this one's this is by Mitch Keating.
Who the hell's that?
Came out. Oh fuck knows. He's an editor for Zero Hanger of all places. So yeah, they're all been very similar. So Bolton picks 10 and 17, and then Baker's a future first, which means we keep pick 9.
We're gonna need that future first.
Now there's your parlay there, right?
Yeah, we're gonna need that future.
Do you turn 9?
We're gonna need.
Do you turn 9 into something for the following year?
Yeah, we're gonna need that future first for Warner.
Yeah. So instead of that, oh, fucking hell.
It's a mess, man. It's. I just can't see a situation where we don't get bent over here.
I think we need to open our minds up and just start dealing with the fact that we won't be picking in the first round.
You don't mean the collective ours, do you? You mean me. You mean
No, I mean mine as well. Because I don't. The values of those two players have been overestimated. Where we're going to lose 9, 10 and 17 for two players.
It's assuming Baker will even come. So the good news,
and that's coming from that's everyone that's ever commented from a media point of view. And I've got a bit to say about the media later, but yeah, they've all said the same sort of thing. All the values been the same. Like us as fans and non-experts, I guess. Not that they're experts, but yeah, we obviously say that that's over the top, but
yeah, oh goodness, okay, well, that happens.
I mean, the haul they could have, they've already got the number 1. They get 5 for Rioli.
By the way,
which is basically
what the hell are Gold Coast doing if they're giving up 5 for Rioli?
Oh, Gold Coast have got.
No, but pick 5? No way is he worth that. Like, oh my god, if they've given up pick 5 for Rioli,
yeah, I think they need points or some shit for whatever their academy players are. So,
but you only get the points, don't you?
Whatever it is, I don't know.
By trading the pick out, not for a player, but by trading it out for further picks down the line.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't pay pick 5 for him. Yeah. I'm telling you now, pick 5 for Rioli. That's worse than 2 first rounders for Bolton.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Okay, all right. So maybe I need to get my head around this, but Jesus.
I think not just you, but I think the Freo supporters in general, because I think we're all pretty much relatively on the same path or same thoughts that he's not worth the 2, but I think we need to get our head around the fact that it's potentially going to be that way.
So I've got my head around it in the fact that he's contracted, he's got a long contract, and he's asking to break it, right? So that contract gives Richmond a lot of power. So my question really isn't around whether we give 2 picks, 3 picks, or 1 pick. My question is around, do we just say, nah, mate, you're not worth it, and just move on? That's my point. Do we? And I think there are a lot of Freo supporters who are in love with Shai Bolton and want his skill set. So they'll be the ones saying, well, 2 picks, just pay it, this, that, and the other. I don't think he's worth that. And so it's not about, we should be trying to give them pick 26 and 10 and 9. It's let's just move on. Let him go to West Coast or stay at Richmond.
I think we're going to get to the point where we are going to be on the downside of this. So they're going to win this deal.
Yeah.
But we need to minimise the damage. So yeah, it can be in their favour. He's contracted, blah blah blah. But you can have different variations of them winning it. They can win it by a country mile, or they can just have like a little sweetener, just like a set of steak knives sort of thing.
It could be Chris Judd and Carlton and West Coast winning that, or it could be Brisbane getting Lockie Neal and us getting Jesse Hogan and us getting bent over. It could, they're the two sides. You can either be Carlton and Fremantle, or you can be West Coast and Brisbane. So that's, yeah, and I just and
I think they're going to have to win the deal.
Yeah,
but it's just you want it to be the set of steak knives rather than a Ferrari.
Well, the problem is that we've got too many instances of Fremantle being Fremantle in this situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, okay. Well, we'll see. We're not going to solve it here.
Yeah.
But,
and we've probably spent a bit of time on that. So,
yeah.
I guess, because I know you have to jump off shortly. So, I guess some general AFL news. What were your thoughts on the Houston bump?
Yeah, look, 5 weeks I think feels right to me on the basis that like it wasn't as bad as Webster's, and Webster got 7. He lined a guy up and he knocked him out. I think 5 weeks is about right.
Yeah, there was no intent to play the ball whatsoever. Chose to bump. Hit him high.
I don't think he meant to concuss him for what it's worth. I think
No.
I think
there was no.
Him. I think he wanted to really line him up and hurt him, but not concuss him.
He just got a little bit wrong.
Yeah, that's all it takes.
Another one which I didn't put on the run sheet, but what are your thoughts on Heppel not playing in front of his home crowd last week for one last time?
Yeah, a bit of a douche move from Essendon, I think. Especially since, he hasn't been in great form, he's retiring, but Essendon's season was over.
So my only response to that is mathematically they were still in with a shot. So selection integrity, do you pick him regardless, or?
Yeah, well, I don't think was he in that horrible form. Was the person who came in for him that much better than him? Because I think probably not.
Oh yeah, I don't know who came in. I don't know who came in, but
yeah, I suspect they probably should have played him. It'd be a bit like us not playing Fife next week.
Yeah.
I know we're still in the hunt with I know we're still in the hunt.
Yeah.
But put it this way. Let's say if we know that the Dockers, let's say the Dockers drop Fife this week. Say that they do. If all the teams above us win, and the game is no longer mathematically possible for us to win to make the finals, would you then bring Fife in?
I guess the one that could play out is Walters.
Well, yeah.
He didn't play last week.
Yeah. So do you bring?
So does he get selected?
Yeah. So if they keep Reedy in, and Walters is an emergency, do they bring Walters in? As an that's So, and I would say, if we can't make the finals, I'd almost like we discussed earlier. I'd probably almost play Walters anyway. Just because he does have a bit of X factor. He may, there may be the opportunity that he helps win us a game. But yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
I guess the only other thing, we're about to head into the media frenzy, the off season, to expand on just before. So I guess the media circus in general, around being first to produce a story. So, quote from Denzel Washington of all people. But if you don't read the newspaper, you're not informed. If you do read it, you're misinformed. What's the long-term effect of too much information? So we have Twitter, X, forums, newsprint, or otherwise. One of the effects is the need to be first. Not even true, just first.
Yep.
So at some point, the media need to have a responsibility to tell the truth, not just to be first. So society now, we don't care. Don't care whether it's true or not. Just get it out there, no matter who it hurts or destroys. So like every second day, like Petrarca, right? Every day, every man and his dog had a different thought on it. But they were going with it as if that was 100% fact. He's leaving, he's gone, he's out the door.
Yeah.
And coming up to this trade period, you're going to have daily 1,000,001 articles based on some guy's got a tip from someone probably on X, and they've hit up the whatever reporter it is. I know X guy's going, like, and that's going to be the story for the day.
Yeah, well, we've been doing it a bit with Chad Warner, haven't we? So,
well, we have, yeah.
You know, and that, but that's look, so sometimes they go over the top, right? The media, that is, you know, like, and I think the perfect example of over the top, I don't think you'll get a better example of over the top than what the West Australian does with Harley Reid.
Yeah.
You know, some of the back pages that they've had on Freo, like, you know, I don't know if you saw the Chokers one the other day.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to give them any airtime because really they're just a rag that should be used as toilet paper, honestly. But, you know, so sometimes they go completely out of control, overboard. But I think on some occasions, actually, you've just got to report it as it is. Now, the Petrarca thing, okay, there was a big buzz, but there was only a big buzz because Petrarca let there be. He could have come out and said, "No, I'm not happy," or he could have come out and said, "What are you guys talking about? I'm happy."
Yeah.
And left it at that. But you know what he did instead? Nothing. He let it happen. And you know the reason why? Because he isn't happy. He's not happy. And the same was with Clayton Oliver last year. Well, Melbourne are in a world of hurt, right, at the moment. They're going to have... Yeah, I think that they're not going to win another flag, I don't think, now with this group. And I think that the side effects of that is... You know, you start getting players who are restless. You know, you can paper over the cracks pretty easily when things are good. And we know, as Freo supporters, that, you know, because we're always having stuff happen to us because we're never good, you know, we see the stuff that goes on all the time. Whereas I think this Melbourne situation, you know, if they were winning games, and I had them winning the premiership this year, if they were winning games like they were expected to, then you know, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be coming out. Tracker would be happy. Oliver would be in form and, you know, and back happy with his life. Viney wouldn't be going to North, which he isn't now, by the way. He signed a deal.
He's re-signed now.
He never was, right? But the fact that he never was, he said himself, I was never going over there. The fact that it was reported that he wasn't, that he was considering it, is purely just a side effect of the fact that there's been a lot of stuff going on with him.
Yeah, his old man's over there, so
people put two and two together.
Drew the link, and there we go.
So no, it's yeah. I just want for once for us to be good, to win a flag, and then we can just have an off season where it's not craziness, you know.
Yeah.
But I reckon it's going to be another crazy off season, and we'll be doing plenty of discussions ourselves in it.
Yep.
Rightio. I guess one last thing. NFL pre-season started, so it's this is our time. Well, this is with all the changes in the AFL over the years, and that I won't say that I love NFL more than the AFL, but it's closing the gap. It is closing the gap. I just cannot wait. Now, my Broncos are garbage. They're complete and utter garbage. Your Pats are garbage, but it's still going to be good fun. So I see that we've got the fantasy league popping up, so we'll try and get that up and going. I got one of my mates, Conrad, into it as well. So
yeah, cool.
We need another 7 people. So let's try and get that up and going. Any quick thoughts on the NFL before we?
Nah, it's obviously a few weeks away. I think it starts the first week of September, so not too far away, which will be good. Nice little distraction if Freo happen to bow out, as we potentially will. I get to watch the Patriots lose every week
until they play the Broncos, and then
yeah,
and then they'll get their one win, and we'll be good.
Although you knocked us off last year, so
one of our few rare wins.
Mind you, everyone knocked us off, so it's not nothing new.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you got Mag Jones at QB, mate.
He's gone off to
Jacksonville, eh?
Jaguars now, yeah.
Never to be seen again.
Right, well.
Brilliant. Thanks for that.
No worries, mate.
Yep. So let's keep this going. We'll hopefully have another chat next week.
No worries.
Yes.